to have you out here, and you're setting a great example of how to be actively involved in making a change in our society for the better. And this is both for you and Jim as well. Just a quick rundown, your main reasons, after all that we've seen with what's gone on, why is this happening? Why do you find that this event took place? I'll leave it at that.
Well, for my money, this is similar to the Kennedy assassination in that it wasn't just one purpose, okay? This was a confluence of agendas. You can go all the way back to Dick Cheney as Secretary of Defense under Gerald Ford, and Rumsfeld, okay, who was Chief of Staff in the White House at that time. And they came up with a plan for the Middle East, which involved increased military presence in the Middle East to gain control over the oil supplies, regime change in Iraq, and also regime change in Afghanistan. But at that time, everybody said, "What are you talking about? That's just making war. You're crazy." And so that got put on the back burner until 2000. And in 2000 now, Bush got selected, and they were in power. And in September of 2000, they were part of that neocon think tank, the Project for a New American Century. And they wrote a big paper and said, we need to have more military presence in the Middle East, gain control of the oil supplies, regime change in Afghanistan, Iraq. And then whoever wrote that, though, was pretty appreciative. They said, but you know, this will be a hard sell to the American public unless there is a catastrophic and catalyzing event like a new Pearl Harbor. Well, a year later they got it, okay? And then we followed the same course as Nazi Germany, which in the early 1933 was a democratic republic, the Weimar Republic. Hitler was chancellor, kind of like vice president, and then the Reichstag, the parliament burned, was gutted, and in those kinder, gentler times, that was such a shock to the Germans as 9/11 was to us. And Hitler says, well, give me the power and I'll stop these terrorists. So they ran through the Enabling Act, which created the Gestapo, the concentration camps, consolidated all the police agencies. And does that sound familiar? We got 9/11 and then the Patriot Act, which kind of like Obamacare, they said we have to pass that so we can find out what's in it. And I don't know about you guys, but any one of my elected representatives that would pass a law or a piece of legislation that they didn't even read, didn't know what was in it, I think they are treasonous and they should be thrown out of office. But anyway, so as you can see, you've got all that, and then without going into the long spiel, I can explain it all to you. But at the heart of it, we've got an insurance scam. The World Trade Center towers, which were built on Rockefeller land and commonly known as the David and the Nelson, were universally disliked in New York because they thought they broke up their beautiful skyline, and they were 30 years old, and they had even talked about tearing them down. But they couldn't do it because the city determined that they were half filled with asbestos. And they said, we're not going to allow asbestos to fly all over Manhattan. So they couldn't tear them down. There was also very quietly and almost secretly a study done to see if they couldn't renovate these towers because after 30 years they were deteriorating. Well, you can imagine what it would cost to put up scaffolding off 110-story buildings, stories of two buildings. So it just was not feasible. So I asked you, what does the mafia do if they got a building and they can't rent it, they can't sell it, they can't renovate it? They torch it for the insurance. 2 months before 9/11, the Port Authority leased a 99-year lease to Larry Silverstein and Properties. And the first thing he did was get Securicom, which was on the board of directors, Marvin Bush, and it was headed, the CEO was Wirt Walker III, as in George Herbert Walker Bush. So Bush got control over the World Trade Center towers. Next thing he did was go and get insurance with double indemnity for terrorist attack. I defy any of you to go see if you can get your home, insured against terrorist attack. And by the way, he didn't get this with State Farm or some little insurance company. This was Swiss Re, the giant German insurance company, Alliance, which had indemnified the Nazi concentration camps against damage by their inmates. Okay, and then boom, of course, the planes hit the towers, and we've got this settlement.
Jim, isn't Swiss Re one of the implicated firms in the put options?
Yes, exactly. So after wrangling in court, Silverstein argued that there were two planes, two buildings, and therefore he wanted double indemnity. But after wrangling around for about a year, he ended up getting $4.6 billion, $25 million investment. Not bad. Now, but he didn't get to keep all that money. He had to share it with the mortgage holder, which happened to be Blackstone Group, which was headed, I'm sure by some sheer coincidence, by Peter G. Peterson, chairman of the Council on Foreign Relations. Okay, the secret society that's been running our foreign policy since World War I. It takes a lot of background, and you have to learn a lot of things before you can figure it out. So anyway, you can see that the destruction of the World Trade Center not only took care of the insurance problem, the money problem, and the money simply shifted into pockets, went from, Peter to Paul, and it also gave us the impetus to go into the Middle East, started 3 wars, if you want to count Syria, and scrapped our liberties and created our now existing police state.
Mr. Jim Marrs, right there in a nutshell.